right, thank you so much. And this is another episode of New Life, Mr. Janu. So let's think about it. It's 2023 finally.
Mm-hmm.
This year, last time, you were getting ready to embark upon a life-changing surgery. Take me back to that week, that preparatory week prior to your surgery.
Well, uh, it was pretty intense. It was lot at stake. I've been on chemo for at least almost a month at that point, and everything was going back to back to feeling like regular, and then what I consider regular for a long time. But it was just a lot of nervous energy, a lot of anticipation, a lot of nervous energy. That's all I can say. Like, it was just nervousness, but I had a sense of calm and sense of peace come over me after I prayed and stuff like that, like the night before the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And the week leading up to it, it was nervous. It was tough. It was rough.
What kind of things were you mentally, because it's one thing to be physically preparing for something, and I think at that point, physically you had done all you could do. You had gone through the rounds of chemo. You had had you never missed an appointment. So at that stage, of course, I can imagine that you were nervous, but what mental process were you able to undergo to get you into that zone?
Well, really prayer and just battle. It was like just battle-minded battle, getting ready for war, so to speak, and just prayer, just on the spiritual level, and just on the physical level, just try to stay hydrated, just to give myself a fighting chance or whatever. But it was a very, I'm trying to find a word to explain it. It was hell. I'm gonna just put it like that. It was hell. It was hell, but at the end, it was heaven. You know what I mean?
But I want you to go past that. When you said it was hell, like, help me understand, because I know that people who out there may be watching it,
Mm-hmm.
many have probably gone through some type of surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a difference when surgery is already a mentally exhausting thing to even consider.
Mm-hmm.
But to consider surgery where you may or may not come through, like, how do you even just help me understand the hell?
That's it. That's it. Like what you just say, you may not come through, and that was the biggest thing. That was the biggest question mark in my mind. What if you don't come through? Is it the end? This how it's really gonna end, just like that? Like you just found out. You getting your stride in life, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all snatched away so fast. It couldn't be, taken away from you. So
Mm-hmm.
that aspect of it, and then when they tell you to get your affairs in order, that's a wake up call as well. So yeah, it's an eye opener, definitely. So you just start thinking about your own mortality. You know what I mean? It just,
Had you ever thought about your mortality prior to that?
Not as much as I did while facing that, but that puts everything in perspective. I think about it every day now. So, I try not to take anything for granted. I try to stay easy, stay even keel, and, just appreciate everything. Just
Mm-hmm.
breathing, life, love, everything.
When you say face your own mortality,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, because I'm sure you had probably already began to face it prior to that. Did it get real?
How real you want to get it? Like,
real. Like, did it get real?
As real as my dad said, as real as it could get.
Okay.
As real as it could get. So yeah, it was the real deal, Holyfield, man. It was the one, So yeah, you staring it dead in the face. So you looking at death and the other side not coming back, or turn back. You got so much to look for. You're leaving that you can look forward to having.
You mentioned war.
Yeah.
Like, explain that more. Like, you mentioned, you view this as war.
Absolutely, it was war. Cancer is a disease. Cancer is a beast. It's a vicious beast. It takes out a lot of people without warning, and it ravages your body rapidly. You know what I mean? So that's why another reason I didn't ring the bell, because it could be a fight for life. So I don't want to ring it and think I conquered it and then it sneaks back up on you. You're like, you got to do it all over again. It takes away from you. So I'm always in ready mode. I'm always in beast mode. So I'm ready to go. I'm trained to go. So I'm ready if it was to pop up tomorrow. No disrespect, but respectfully, I'm ready to go back to war with it. So I'm a little bit weaker than I was before, but I'm getting there.
How like, what all did it take out of you? Like, when you said, because you mentioned warring, and no, we don't want it to come back ever.
No.
It
won't. In Jesus' name, it won't.
Amen. How you mentioned, like, it takes a lot out of you. Like, when people look at you today, even when you're out and you're doing your speaking engagements, and when you're out and you're, in essence, ministering to people, they don't look at you and think that you've been through anything. But you said it's taken a lot out of you. Explain it to me.
This is, internally, it takes, your physical appearance, is different. You can alter that, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, it's taxing. It's kind of like going, I don't want to compare it to, being crucified, but it's no disrespect, but it's the closest thing like you could get to being stretched, because you have no control over what goes on with you at that point. Being that far gone.
Far gone. Tell me about that. You said being that far gone.
Well, I mean, when the disease has progressed to the point of they telling you to, like I said, get your affairs in order, get your business straight, and you have advanced directives and all that. I didn't even know what none of that was. So I wasn't even thinking in that lane. But it makes you think in that lane pretty quickly. It gets your mind right.
Did you ever get your affairs in order?
Yeah, absolutely.
What does that look like? Because we know what it looks like when they say, hey, sign this piece of paper for advance directive. We know what it looks like when they say, who's your next of kin, and you have to answer all of these questions.
Yeah.
But what does that look like to get your affairs in order?
Yeah, you have to get your life insurance, the life insurance policy in place. You have to make sure you have the people who's on that, who you're going to take care of and stuff like that, who's going to be responsible for receiving what it is that what they need to receive. And we don't look at it like that. We think we're going to live forever, but that's something that needs to be addressed, because here today, gone tomorrow. That's how it goes, sometimes. So, but you just got to make sure everything lines up, even having a will. If you have property and stuff, you got to know who it's going to. You got to divvy it up correctly. It keeps down a lot of in-house family fighting and stuff like that. So you just have to have it together. So,
what was it like when you were entering into? Now, at that point, it was January. It was cold. I mean, you had a lot of things that were taking place in the midst of COVID. It was cold. You had, you probably wanted support and couldn't really have support, during your surgery time, because it was COVID.
Well, you know what, and that was probably. See, I have a big family, man. So at work too. It was cool anyway. So some walks you gotta take, and I have this quote that I put on my Facebook page. It's some things you gotta walk. Some walks you gotta take alone. You can't walk with your mother. You can't walk with your father. You can't walk with your sister. You can't walk with your brother. You can't walk with anybody. It's just you and God. So, and I had to take that walk alone. That's what I always, prepared myself for, and it worked that way. And then I want, my friend, like I said, the hospital would have been crowded. It had to have people all out there, all in the life. They had to have security, because my family's huge. So it kind of worked out that only one person was allowed. But old Nat, come to find out, Natalie, my cousin Natalie, she made it up there, so she wasn't gonna let nothing stop her. But she came up there and supported, and I didn't know. But it was okay. But it was weird. It was weird because it was during COVID. Nobody could come around. You was the only person in the room. And it's just you. And I watched NFL football. I remember I watched the playoffs on TV. And it snowed. For the first time, it snowed. And I looked at I was watching the snow. Couldn't get out the bed or anything like that. Spread open, gutted open. Just watching the snow out there.
But before we even get to that point, just keeping in mind that preparation before even the surgery. I mean, in theory, doctors would tell you to be in the best shape that you can be, knowing that in this instance you're not able to get in any shape. Your shape is to be able to just show up.
Like I said, I was blessed again. I was looked over. I was highly favored. I didn't have any. I had chemo just weakened me. But for the most part, my diet was pretty consistent. I still ate what I want. Not saying I ate what I want, but I ate what most people couldn't. I was blessed in that area, but I just stayed. It was a mental grind. It was more like spiritually. It was like, all right, how could I explain? Like from the inside, it comes out. So inside, like outside, it was okay. You know what I mean? And then again, it wasn't. But then it was because you was alive. So when you look at yourself, you look at it, it's a little different. It's a little bit different. It alters your look. It messes with your motor skills. It messes with your you know what I'm saying? Neurology system, and it messes with your bones. It's everything. You get stuck. You forget things. You got this thing that's called chemo brain that we always talk about. You don't have chemo brain. I'm like, yeah, yes, I do. But you get stuck. In mid sentence. It's tough. It's rough. You vulnerable. You look all right, but and then you could think it's not like you could think it, but the reaction time is a little bit delayed. You get it back, but you got to work on it. But it's tough.
You know how you exercise your body,
right?
How did you start to exercise your mind prior to that surgery?
See, my mind. I've always done mental exercises. Always. Just remember repetition, things repetitiously.
When you say mental exercises, if I don't know what that is, what would that look like?
Say if I have a task to do, and to stay on task, I'll be like, well, I have to do this right now. Okay, well, I have to do this right now. I have to do this right now. I have to do this at this particular time. Or I'll get to this at this particular time. I had the ability to lock sections of my mind off to where I could get to everything that I needed to get to at that particular time because I've already rehearsed it that morning in my mind. I got to get to this place at this time. I got to get to this place at this time. I need to be moving this direction at that time. I need to be back over here. I need to be back home at this time. I've always done that. So, for that, and I just took it and applied it with the way I move now. Structurally, it's tough. This is like a fog. Everything's like a fog when you come back to. And when you come back to from surgery after everything, it's like everything's like a fog and blurry because you done undergone so much. So it's like snatches your soul. But yeah, still, but you can bounce back. You just gotta stay consistent.
Consistency. That's one of the words that you use quite intense and consistent. Those are two words that you've consistently shared with us. When you look back at that time and you were applying your mental exercises and you were going to every appointment, what else is it? Like, what else is it that a person needs to do in order to just defeat those dark areas that mentally you can go in at any given time?
You have to intensely be consistent. You have to intensely be consistent. You have to be relentlessly consistent. You have to attack it. You got to keep going, man. You can't stop. You can't. You can't stop. If you stop, my dad had this phrase, man. My dad worked up until he was in his 70s, man. And he used to always say, he used to always ask him, like, Pops, why you retired? Why you retired? He said, son, he said, the day I stop, he said, I'll die. And so I always had the mindset to where when I stop, I can't stop, and I won't stop. So, and I ain't dying. I couldn't die. I couldn't. Nah.
Intense consistency.
Intensely consistent.
Okay.
Intensely consistent. Yeah.
Apply pressure and don't get up. Don't give up. Don't let up.
Ever. Apply pressure always. Never fold. You could bend.
But what
You could
happens
break,
when you
but
get to
never
that place
fold.
of tiredness? Because I'm sure that at some point I know that there was probably some times where you were mentally exhausted, times where you were physically exhausted, times where you may have been, spiritually depleted.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you pull at that moment to get you to that operating room?
Shit, life or death. Life or death. It's life or death. It's fight or flight. You know what I mean? It's fight or flight. So, you can leave or you can stay and fight. You know what I mean? And I've seen so many people take flight. And I wasn't ready to take flight yet. So I wasn't ready to just give it all up just for the sake of saying that this disease has me. Nah. Have me, I have it. So I never